So my topic for today is Balagrahas. That is the sculptures of demonic spirits, which are believed to be responsible for infant mortality. Somewhere around we focused on the Kushan period, that is 1st century AD to 3rd century AD here. So Balagraha is composed of Bala, that is children or kids, and Grahas is engulfing or to seizure or to possess, because the definition of graha what they have given is graha upadane dhatuhu grannati graha. So one who engulfs, one who possesses, it is called as graha. And those demonic spirits are possessing or harming balas, that is children, are very popular, seems to be very popular in folklore, and then eventually adopted into the classical or the mainstream literature of that time, right? So these are the demons, as we see, they believe to harm or injure children. One of the earlier references for balagrahas or grahas in general, we found it in earliest texts of Rigved, where they are referred as bhutas or pishachas. But Atharva Ved, very specifically in second mandala, uh, it mentions that balagrahas are demonic beings and they're attracted to blood. So they are basically bloodthirsty and they are embryo eating. So basically they cause damage to the embryos or the fetal life. Shatapatha Brahmana also depicts Graha as has some mythical powers. Again, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also described there are grahas and atigrahas, which are group of demons, which ranges from 8 numbers to 16 numbers. Out of them, some of are male, some of are female. And similar depiction we can found in several Purans like Agni, Skanda, Markandeya, Srimad Bhagavat as well. The first skanda of Srimad Bhagavat also explains this, that there are 16 to 18 types of demons and some of them are male or female, and the remedies for that. Very peculiarly, Vanaparva and Shalyaparva of Mahabharata mentions the graha doshas and the grahas causing harm to children. Even they have some mention from Harivamsha as well, but surprisingly, Ramayana does not mention of these entities. So most probably, these concepts or these beings are later adopted into mainstream literature, and it somewhere happened between Kushana period or Shunga period for that matter. There are several mentions of these balagrahas as a diseases in Shushrata Samhita, in Charaka Samhita. There is a special text called as Kumara Bhrattiya or Kumara Tantra by Ravana. Basically, the creation of, or the credit of the creation of Kumara Bhrattiya or Kumara Tantra is often given to the Ravana. So it is called as Ravana Kruta Kumara Tantra. Sayanacharya of Ayurvedic practices. Then Kashika Sutra, Kashyapa Samhita to be particular, Bhava Prakasha, Ashtanga Yoga Tantrarana, and Skanda Bhaishijya, which is one of the medicinal Skanda Bhaishijya, which is one of the medicinal streams which follows the cult of Skanda. They do mention the Graha Rogas. So Rogas or the diseases caused by these Grahas, and grahas attacking the fetal life and infancy age, that is unborn children or the children of around 16, 0 to 16 ages, till they get into the kumarhood or the pre-adulthood, or they're in teens, right? There are some agamas called as Netra Ratantra by Kshemaraj and Devi Mahatmya. Also, you can see Balagraha Pidita kind of stories mentioned in Kannada folklore. Plenty of them, there are plenty of mentions of these Graha Rogas and Balagrahas harming their children. So most probably, if you take an account of the worship or providing some offerings to these balagrahas, somewhere started during the early Kushan period to later Kushan period, that is 1st to 3rd century CE AD. Many of the Matrika panels, so as for the first earlier developments of these grihas were considered to be Matrikas, female goddesses or the mother goddesses. They are found during the Mathura school or during the Gandhara and Mathura area. Uh, they are believed to be created to protect Kartikeya from Tarakasur and his army. So there is a mention called as Pura Grihasya Rakshartha Nirmita Shula Panina. So it is mentioned by Kashyapa Samhita that you should be making an idol of Shula Panina, that is Skanda Kartikeya, to protect your children from this Bala Grihas. The one of the earlier references to these grahas, they are called as Kumaras or the group of Kumara or sidekicks or the group or troop of Kumar, Skanda himself, or they are loosely called as Matra Devatas or Lokamatas in Shalya Parva of Mahabharata. So they are referred to as Lokamata. So basically they are mothers of the folks or the peasants there around. There are several sculptures that we have found around Mathura, Gandhara and Central Asia region. Most probably the linkage of these deities could have been traced back to the Central Asia of Kushana. Many these literally literary evidences give the names of these grahas, but most prominent of them are Skanda or Skanda Graha, then Vishakha, which is another name of Kartikeya. Skanda is another name of Kartikeya. The Vishak is also known as Skanda Apasmara. Apasmara is some sort of seizure or epilepsy. Sometimes, very rarely, it is referred as a Naigamesha in textual references, not in sculptural journey. Then we have Shakuni. Shakuni is a bird, a female bird. Then there is a mention of Revati, also known as Hariti from Buddhist literature, or Diti, which is mother of Daityas or mother of demons. The concept which is adopted to the Hariti form in Buddhism, or Shashti. Very rarely she is referred as a Devasena as well. Then we have Putana, also known as Dhatri, or a maiden, a wet maiden, who's supposed to provide her milk to the newborns. Putani, and Ayurvedic texts based on the lakshanas or the characteristics of the disease. Ayurvedic text has differentiated Putana into Andha Putana or Adrishti Putana and Shita Putana. Sometimes Dr. Vasudev Sharan Agarwal will see in later part, but Dr. Vasudev Sharan Agarwal has identified, and if we see the depictions from Harivansha, sometimes Shakuni is superimposed with the Putana, and this is the same Putana. The concept is adopted into the Bala Leelas of Sri Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad as well as in Harivansha. We'll see it later on. Then we have one of the headless Matrika. It is called as, or the Grahini. It is called as Mukhamandika, or also known as Mukhamandita. And the last one, which is across common this of one of the Balagrahas, is Naigamesha, which is very similar to that of the Yaksha or the entity or the deity in Jain mythology as well. And he's also been referred as Mesha, or sometimes it is very superimposing, same as Putana superimposing with Shakuni. Naigamesha is superimposing on the Vishakha. There are several mentions of these Balagrahas. As we have discussed, Vanaparva of Mahabharata mentions those as a Lokamata. Then there is a name called as Vishira, one without head. Then they called it as Lamba Payodhara, one who has elongated breasts. are said to be inauspicious qualities and loathsome habits mentioned in Vanaparva of Mahabharata. Shakuni, sometimes called as Vinita, which is very close to the Vinita, the mother of Garuda and Arun in Hindu mythology, in Indian dramatical mythology, uh, which born of anger and carries a spike just like a skanda, carries a vella or a spear. And Lohitayani, daughter of sea with red complexion, and she's having bad temper, it is said, and she's bloodthirsty. Mahabharata one Parva says that these two balagrahis or balagrahinis are sent to kill no newborn Skanda. When Skanda was born, they were sent to kill Skanda, and when they approach to the that particular newborn baby, baby Skanda, maternal instincts rises, and instead of killing Indra, uh, they adopted him as his child, and Skanda has uh, considered as a son of these two Balagrahis. That is the story what Mahabharata Vanaparva gives. There are several names of these Balagrahis are given. Vinita, Kadru, Putana. Kadru is mother of snakes in other stories. Vinita is mother of Garud and Arun. Putana, we see he's a Dhatri of Kansa, who Kansa sent to kill Krishna. Then Sita Putana, Revati is another name of Nakshatra of Bruhaspati. In astrology, it means something other. The Diti is mother of Daityas. Surabhi is somewhere related to the cow. Sarama is a female dog in Vedas. Lohitayani and Arya, and similar to that, the somewhere else list of that is shown as Shakuni, Revati, Mukhamandika, Vinita, Putana, Shita Putana, Shrutika, Arika, and Sarma. So we have got very much what you can say the different lists of the same Balagrahis. Generally, these are deities or demonic spirits are classified as grahas or Caesars or pishachas as gauls. Uh, as we have discussed, Vinita and Lohitayani are bloodthirsty, considered to be bloodthirsty, and they harm pregnant women and they attack children by surprise. That is what the descriptions what we found uh, in Mahabharata. In Bhagavata Purana, Putana Rakshasi, as we discussed, similar depictions are in Harivamsha as well. The stalker, she is considered to be stalker in the night, and one who kills the children by poisoning. One of the other Balagrahi, it is mentioned in Sabha Parva of Mahabharata. She's named as Jara, who actually does a sandhi of two halves of a baby born out of, and Jara basically does a sandhi of that, so that's why that baby is named as Jarasandha. That is the story what we get from Mahabharata. Again, the Shakuni harms children. It is mentioned that Shakuni harms children. Kadru assumes to be subtle form of enter into the womb of a pregnant woman. That is what the descriptions is given. And Lohitayani is daughter of Red Sea, considered to be Dhatri of Skanda during the episode of the genesis of Skanda or Kartikeya in various Puranas. These goddesses or these grahis, demon spirits, are harmful to children and till they turn 16. So till the age of Kumara or because they become a Kumar or pre-adult age, they believed to be harming those children, and they are called as grahas of Kumara. So kind of a team of Kumaras, and they happen to or believe to possess or harm or bring diseases to children of certain age. This has been depicted in several forms. If you see, these are the one of the earlier panels of birth of Skanda or Kartikeya. Most of these panels are found in are currently in Museum of Mathura. And if you could see, there are several matrikas or the female deities with animal faces. If you could see the cat face goddess, the buffalo face goddess, and the others. And if you could see, there is a kumbha which represents the garbha, uh, out of which the skanda is born. And you can see a spear, a man figure with spear, which is identified as Skanda Kartikeya, next to these matrikas. So these are the earlier panels of birth of Skanda. Skanda is very closely associated with the Matrika Shaktis and Matrika figurines. And during the Kushana period, one of the aspect of Murugan Kartikeya is considered to be Skanda, or which is a leader of this Balagrahas. And Shushrata Samhita explicitly gives some of the remedies how to identify the position of Skanda as a Graha, and the remedies how we can go through, how we can get rid of Skanda Graha position for the children. Similarly, Kumara Vritya Tantra detailedly elaborate the Skanda as a Balagraha here. We could see that Atharva Ved, 20th mandal of Atharva Ved, talks about the Skanda Yag, followed by the Dhurta Kalpa. So in most of the Sanskrit plays, Sanskrit literature, Skanda Kartikeya is often referred as a Dhurta, the cunning one, or the Dhurta Pati. Even in Manavya Guhya Sutra, there is a kalpa called as Shashti Kalpa, which talks about the Shanti Yaga for Skanda Kartikeya and his wife Shashti. And sometimes Skanda is referred in some of the early Sanskrit literatures as Ugra as well. So again, this is the left-hand side panel shows birth of Skanda from the Kumbha, where Agni actually puts semen or the virya of Shiva, out of which the Skanda is born. And if you could see, there is a matrika. It is a broken panel, but you can see a matrika sitting just next to this spot. Then we have Kumara holding a spear. Both are from Mathura Museum, and a female deity, which is very similar to that what we have seen. It is of Revati, or it is of Shashti, or because she is holding a spear. So maybe she is from Matrika, Kaumari, or very much related to the Shashti, because it has been identified. It is very small figurine, a terracotta figurine. It is currently placed in the Mathura region. So Shashti is very similar to, iconographically very similar to that of Shanmuganan or Arumugam, one with 6 faces. And it is considered to be Shakti of Skanda. And many of the Ayurvedic texts gives that Shashti gives some of the other diseases to Balas. This is another panel where actually Skanda, Shashti, and Vishakha. So Vishakha, Mahasena, Kumara, and Kartikeya. There seems to be 4 different aspects of Kartikeya worship during the separate periods of at the separate parts of the country, it seems. So Skanda, Shashti, again Shakti of, and surprisingly, or it is not very common, that Shashti is placed in between of Skanda and Vishakha, highlighting her importance within the panel itself. If you see the word Vishakha, it is V plus Shakha. Shakha is branches, the family tree, and Vishakha is cutting down that branches. So basically Vishakha means cutting down the branches. So one of the etymology of Vishakha could be cutting down. Again, it refers to the that particular graha or that particular deity is harming the new generation or the next generation. Similarly, Hariti in some of the early Buddhist reference comes with the Panchika, which is again a form of Kuber, or it is one of the aspect of Kuber, and Hariti with a child on her lap. So in later part of Kushana dynasty, that is after 3rd century and early Gupta period, these all grahas seems to be changed their malevolent status to the benevolent status. So the transition is very clear. Before they were worshipped to avoid such kind of diseases, and then they were getting worship for the protection of these newborns and something of that sort. If you see the Shashti Kalpa or the Shashti Yaga in one of the Bhaishijya Kalpanas, one of the Bhaishijya or the medicinal part of it, then it is for the protection of newborns rather than it is out of the fear of these grahas are possessing or harming to the children. So eventually the status of malevolent beings are turning into the benevolent aspect, and eventually it happens with uh, most of the we could see it happens to the most of the deities around. So Shashti or Revati or Hariti, if you could see, there are several images of Balagrahis having a cat face is mentioned. So first, the leftmost panel, again you could see a Kumbha, then Kartikeya with a spear, or the Skanda standing just next to that Kumbha with a spear, of course, the Shakti Vella with his in hand, and one is in Abhaya Mudra. The Matrika very next to Skanda is of cat face, or it is in during the Kushana period, and again it is in Lucknow Museum. Similarly, the cat face Matrika is also present next to some other Matrika. And if you could see, they are having a inert child, inert children or the fetus in their laps. So they are actually holding inert children in their lap. These panels, the also from Kushana period, and the second panel is from National Museum of New Delhi. Similarly, catface Matrika with inert child in her lap is also reported somewhere, dated somewhere around 1st century CE AD in Kushana period from Mathura. This third panel is reported by Cunningham in 1885, and most probably the same panel or similar panel is of Matrika with cat face. It is again from the Mathura Museum. If you see, we'll later on see that the Shashti Devi in Bengal also has some of the other association with cats. And if you could see the rituals somewhere around, in most of the cultures in Indian household, if there is a newborn, they are supposed to restrict the entry of cats into that particular room or in that particular house. At least in my childhood, uh, it was believed by one of my family members that cats are actually they actually break the talu or the parietal bone of the newborn, and they start eating, or they just kidnap that kid, abduct for eating. That was the belief, common belief, what I have seen. So somewhere around a cat harming children and a Matrika with a cat face having a Balgrahi status, somewhere I think they are connected, but need to explore more on this. Then we have some other depictions of Shashti. All the panels are somewhere around from Kushana period. If you could see, uh, they have depicted Shashti as a female figure with a Abhaya Mudra and the Katyavalambi, one of the akimbo position. And you can see the smaller uh, female deities, or smaller matrikas or smaller grahis with they are around the Prabhavali of these Matrukas, and they are counted to be 6 in nature. So basically, Shashti is as considered as a Shakti of Skanda. She is represented with 6 other female Matrikas, or mother goddesses, or the Grahis there. If you see the last part, last photo, you can see Matrika with some animal. This is the Naigamesha. This is one of the, this is because the elaborated photo what I have, will see it later. So this is Naigamesha, and again this is Matruka with some animal face. So this was again one of the common depictions of Shashti during Kushana period, and Hariti or Shashti seems to be very popular during this period of time. Now these are some of the duplicated Matruka panels, but you could directly see the first image on the left. It is from the Government Museum of Mathura, dated to be of Kushana period. You could see actually this mother goddess is actually grasping those smaller figures, most probably children, by their throat. So she's actually choking them, and they're actually picking them. And similar depictions can be found in various other sculptures as well. If you see the Matrika, which is harming infant, this is found, this fragment is found in the Bhuteshwara Tila of Mathura. It is also dated during Kushana period. It is currently placed in Government Museum of Mathura. You could see she's actually tearing down that, tearing down the infant, inert infant. And if you could see, there are toenails. There are enlarged toenails, very similar to the uh, monstrous nails, toenails she's having. So basically, she's tearing apart the inward with this two similar, very similar to the Narasimha panel, what we see in later part. And it is placed in the Government Museum. Then we have found some of the artifacts of these deities. Here you can clearly see the deity of Gandhara region. They are found during Kushana period, and this is currently in Japan. And I have found them in Gandhara art in volume 2, where you can actually see this deity is holding a dagger in one hand, and she has already lifted that child with his hair. So she is actually, because that particular kid is very much above the ground on which she is standing, so he's basically upholding by holding his hair, and she is having dagger. So somehow she is considered to be a grahi, or uh, harming to children. That is again from the Kushana period. And the right hand side panel, if you could see, she is into sitting Sukhasana. She is into both legs. She's sitting on manchaka, but again, if you could see, she is holding a dagger, as if she is going to uh, pierce that dagger into someone. She is also holding a identical spear or Shakti, which is again she resemblance with Skanda Kartikeya, because it is the iconic weapon of Skanda. She's also having, even if you could see in left panel as well, the lower fangs are prominently shown. And also in the lower hand of this, she's uplifting a child by holding his hair. So it is again from a private collection from Gandhar region. Then this is Sahiri Bahol from Gandhar, again late Kushana period. It is currently placed in Peshawar Museum in Pakistan currently. I've got this photo, from Christian. So here, if you could see, very similar to than that of these sculptures, but now here you can see the context of these had changed. So she is holding she's basically holding a cup, then a kumbha, supposed to be holding amrit, then she's holding a trident, and but the fangs or the lower teeth, the demonic teeth, are still there. So the demonic nature in the course of time has already is already there, but now she's holding a children as if she's protecting that particular child. So this, you see the transition of being a malevolent deities to the benevolent deities, and this is one of the similar depictions of Hariti as well. And this is very later part, it is not of Kushana, but if you could see the a child sitting on a lap of this Devi, he is shown with the goblin ears, pointed ears. So again, some of the other fragments of these deities or grahis being demonic shows by the smaller elements having fangs, having goblin pointed ear children around or something of that sort. But now eventually the malevolent stature of these deities are getting converted to the benevolent one. Yes, if you could see the first two imagery, it is called as Graha Kapala, or it is called as Graha Kapal. It has been identified as Skanda and Shashti, probably from 5th to 6th century, later part of Gupta from Kashmir. It is of private collection. If you could see, the Skanda is shown as one of the it is as in the divine form of his, but the female which is standing beside him is with a demonic face. So again, Shashti being a demonic Balagrahi has still perceived in some of the other fragments. And how it has been identified as Kanda and Shashti, you could see a peacock and with his feathers grasp around, and Skanda has put his hand on the shoulders of his Shakti, that is Shashti or Hariti here. Similar depictions, if you could see the panel above, that is Balagrahas in Northwest province, probably from Sahir Balor. It is somewhere around late 4th century to 5th century, and currently it is in Cleveland Museum, Ohio. If you could see the motif here, you could see a 6-faced man and 6-faced female sitting just right next to each other. It is Shanmug Kartikeya Skanda and Shashti with 6 faces. Similarly, Cunningham reported as he has reported for that cat face Balagrahi, Hariti from Kushan period, that is from Mathura Museum, and one of the Hariti from 1st to 2nd century Mathura style from Oxford Museum. So we have seen Revati or Hariti or Diti as a mother of demons. It has been called as. Then another one of the most important, what I think, and there are serious gaps in where we actually wanted to go to research. I personally want to research, that is demoness or Balagrahi Putana. Putana is derived from Putta, which is a hell associated with forefathers or Pitrus. So, or sometimes it is called as stinky. So Putana sometimes translates as the stinky one. In Shitala, that is one of the prominent deity. Again, one of the name of Shashti, again, a goddess of smallpox. She is having another name or weapon called as Putana in Bengal folklore. Putana is defined as Yatu Dhani or evil spirit at the beginning of Bhagavad Puran. Putana has several mentions in Agni Puran, Brahmanda Puran, Hari Samhita, Mahabharat, and Harivansha. And they all Puranas listed it in the form of Rakshasi or of Grahini or Matrika or Yogini. Balatantra, that is, which is a Ayurvedic text, mentions Putana as one of the sisters of Ravan. It is very interesting mention of Balatantra, that she's been mentioned as sister of Ravan, and she has permitted to eat flesh of infants. That is clearly mentioned in Balatantra. In Saddharma Pundarika Sutra and Manasollas by Chalukya King Someshwara III of Western Chalukyas, enlist or give the list of various demons, including Putana or group of Putana. So they have Saddharma Pundarika Sutra or Manasollas has considered that there should be a group of Putanas as a demoness. Kushan images Putana. Some of the mentions in Harivamsha or in other Kashyapa Samhita kind of texts. So what it mentions that Shakunistha Mayyaruya Sayya Bhunte Shishun Bhuvi. So she is Shakuni. She is Putana is equivalent of Shakuni. Shakuni is bird form, and she is Bhunte Shishun Bhuvi. So she eats children or the flesh of children. Even Kashyapa Samhita clearly mentions her as Paksha Shashti. So again, there is an equivalent of Paksha. Paksha is wings, one who has wings, again referring to Shakuni or being bird, and but to Shashti, which is again a Shashti, that is, we have seen Revati or Hariti of earlier. Dr. Vasudev Sharan Agrawal has also mentioned that Shakuni could be Putana based on to the shlok from Harivansha. Kasya chittasya kalasya Shakuni veshadharini dhatri kausasya bhojasya Putaneti parishrata. So the Dhatri or the wet maiden of Kausa is Shakuni veshadharini. So she is into the bird form, and Dhatri Bhojasa Putaneti. So she is being called as Putana, but she is Shakuni Veshadharini. So she is into bird form, as Harivamsha quotes. And the further Harivamsha said that Putana Nama Shakuni, Ghora Prana Bhayankari, Ajagama Dhatre Ratro, Vai Paksho Krodha Vidhuvanti. So she is Shakuni, then she is Paksho, that is related to birds. So many of the times Putana is being associated with the bird or the Shakuni, and some of the early Kushan images as a bird, they are found and reported in Mathura, in Devgad, and in Mandor. Right? So these are this could be one of the earlier representations of Putana, Shakuni as a wet maiden or Balagrahi. This is wing deity from Shunga, Berlin Museum, followed by again a Berlin Museum. You could see smaller wings of this deity. They are found in northwestern part of currently in Pakistan, and this artifact is currently in Berlin Museum. And very similarly, a bird-headed yogini near Naresar temple, Madhya Pradesh, which is dated somewhere around 1st century, 100 AD, 1000 AD, I'm sorry. Presently, in Gwalior Archaeological Museum, she is having a bird head, and she has also a very much depiction of similar to that of Hariti or the Matrika. She has a children or a child on her lap, and she's considered to be yogini. So this could be one of the earlier depictions of Putana Shakuni, and as this myth supposed to be or was very popular around the Mathura or Braja or Vrindavan area, they could have been used as an instrument in Srimad Bhagavat for Sri Krishna killing Putana as a dhatri or wet nurse. Because Ayurvedic test has also given that if the breast milk of mother has turned foul, or the taste of that breast milk's turn of a bitter taste, then there could be possibility that mother is being possessed by Putana, and it could harm the child, as he's only survived by the milk of his mother. Then if you see in later part of the contemporary part, Hariti seems to be very popular. Shashti also seems to be very popular. So these are the coins from Kushana area where the Hariti is depicted. This is the medallion. This is not a coin. This is a silver medallion. Then you could see Shashti from Kushana as well as from Yodheya. Yodheya tribe or Yodheya dynasty was ruling over the Punjab, uh, part of Punjab, uh, the area in Pakistan as well as in India. So Yodheya. Then you have Skanda and Vishakha are depicted. If you could see the reverse side of this coin, you could see a double or the male deities, two male deities named Vishakha and Kumara, or the Skanda on the Huvishka coin of Kushana. So see, they seems to be uh, Kushana were very clear that Skanda and Vishakha are two different deities, and they are having two different identities, and they seems to be very popular at that time, most probably. Similarly, Shashti with six faces is represented on Yodheya coins here. And Naigamesha, we are yet to see Naigamesha on in details. We'll see it in later slides as well. But Naigamesha is also depicted in Kushan coins, and Skanda Kartikeya is on Yodheya coins with a Vella spear in his hand. So we'll see the Balagraha Naigamesha. Naigamesha is a Balagraha with ram head or having a goat head. Uh, so he's shown with the ram head with horns and ear here. The first one, Naigamesh, is shown endangering infants. If you could see, he's holding two infants in his hand. So one is he's holding one infant by the hand, and second one is upside down, and that particular infant is held by Naigamesha by his leg, and it is found in Kankali Tila in Mathura, somewhere dated around pre-Kushana period, and it is currently kept in Government Museum of Mathura. Similarly, Naigamesha, again, if you could see, now the Naigamesha is with Abhaya Mudra. He is having two his horns and sitting on his shoulders. One is beside him, and hand of one of the children here. So Naigamesha in Mathura Museum during Kushana period. Now the malevolent stature of malevolent character of Naigamesha has eventually changed, it seems, to the benevolent uh, aspect of Naigamesha. So rather than holding the children upside down and showing him endangering children, he is shown with all the children around him. Similarly, if you could see the Ellora panel of Skanda, you could see a Skanda standing in front. He is actually feeding up his peacock. And if you could see, there are two figures with ram heads, and they are standing just next to Kumara. So there are two Naigameshas. Most probably the grahas of Kumaras or Skanda, they are called as group of Kumaras. They probably visualize as with ram heads or the Naigamesha characteristics. Again, while thinking on why ram is so important in cult of Kanda in early Kushana period, then I could figure out that equivalence of Kartikeya being a son of Agni and Ram as a mount of Agni, most probably the people around that visualized Kumara as being Agni related to the Ram as a mount of Agni. That is what my hypothesis is. I need to validate it in the future research, of course, but that is what that could be one of the interpretations of being two Naigameshas present beside of Kartikeya here. being a son of Agni or Agni born, Agni Bhu. Then these are again some of the depictions of Naigamesha from Mathura Museum as well. It is very peculiarly, it was found that Naigamesha is also shown sometimes with his consort of Naigameshi, the female Naigamesh, or the deity with a ram head. And this is one of the extra slide what I have got. This is from modern art. If you could see the first poster or the calendar art, it is called a Jara Jivantika art. It is currently being used, still it is being used in Marathi households on Maharashtra. It is one of the popular art and it is being worshipped during the Chaturmas, starting from Shravan and Bhadrapad. If you could see the drawing in between, they show two female, and surrounding of that those females, there were plenty of children, and they called it Jivatya or Jara Jivantika. So most probably it is very ancient tradition of worshipping these mother gods, and Jara being again with a reference of Mahabharat from Jarasandha to Jivantika to the Shashti Puja. Even they have in smaller fragments worshipping or making idols from uh, clay from the riverbed uh, on the 6th day of newborn. It is called as Satvai Puja or the Shashti Puja or the Shashti Yaga, where they actually worship Shashti as being regarded as she will write a fortune of the children. So this is the modern art. If you could see, the tradition flows through ages. Now you could see children with having t-shirts and pants, boxers, uh, but the tradition continues in here. This is one of the other medieval, from medieval Maharashtra. It is drawing a typical Maharashtrian woman having she is holding a baby with cradle and Amrita Kumbha in her hand. So it is very similar to that of she is holding some of the Amrita Kumbha here, if you could see. See Amrita Kumbha here, and she is protecting children. It is one of the first images of Grahi from Pakistan from Kushana period, and this is the one of the modern depictions of Jivati or Jivantika, again worship of Shashti during the Shravan, that is the rainy season in western coast of. This is again Putana. If you could see, this is Krishna, but as we know, this is a Balagrahi, and again this is the Shashti from Bengal, as we have seen. This is very modern. She is holding up a children, one in each hand, but she is mounting on cat. So somewhere around the malevolent Revati or malevolent Shashti has turned into benevolent Shashti Mata or Shitala Mata or goddess of smallpox here. So discussions for future research, and here I conclude. Inquiry about Mukhamandika, because the headless Matrika figures are plenty, but the exact interpretation or iconography is very obscure. Then sculpture of Jara Apasmara or Skanda Apasmara is very rare. It is not being reported by any of the researchers. Then exploration of folklore and literature of local beliefs, that is Jivati, Jivantika, Jwarasura from Bengal and eastern part of country, Ganta Karna, Rahu, Ketu, etc. Then contemporary beliefs of Balagrahas and their equivalent deities in other cultures. That is a comparative study I want to perceive. Then there are other grahas also mentioned in Ayurvedic texts, but somehow the sculptures of those are not being found. That is Shvagraha. Shvagraha is very related to the dogs. They are considered to be children of Sarama, which is a female dog of Indra, mentioned in Vedic literature. Then Pitru grahas, that is grahas related to the forefathers, Nagas, and their appearance in later literature. So here I conclude. In the conceptualization of Balagrahas, they are basically, firstly, they were considered as malevolent in early Kushana period, but later in late Gupta or late Kushana period and now onwards, they were considered as benevolent. Cult of Skanda, what seems to be very popular in pre-Gupta period, and his malevolent aspects like Skandagraha, Vishakha are very peculiar. Uh, while depicting the concept of Balagraha, many names interchangeably mentions, as we have discussed earlier, and but there are no detailed descriptions of those are given. And the last point is symbols, rituals, and sculptures are expressions of human psyche. That is what I believe. So these concepts are to be explored, to be interpreted, to transited, and to be preserved for generations to come. As though they are sculptures, they are part of all of us, and they're part of traditions. And basically, they're coming out of the folklore, and it is, I think, it is our responsibility to transit and preserve for generations to come as a art historians and archaeologists. So on this note, I would like to conclude my presentation.